regardless of the problems, the biggest issues are between the rich and the poor. It's so expensive to live here in LA. Rent, I'm a school teacher and I can't even afford to pay rent. I have to work side jobs to pay rent. So I think when you have so many people struggling socially, it just exacerbates the issues that divide us.
We're out asking people if they feel that we're more divided or united as a nation. What do you think? Do you think we're more united or divided at this time, Jason?
I think we're more divided.
Okay, and why do you feel that way?
I'm 43 years old and
Can you speak a little louder? Thank you.
I'm 43 years old and race relations haven't seemed to have gotten better in my lifetime. They seem to have, I wouldn't say gotten worse, just seem to have festered. I don't feel like we've progressed. We're still fighting over the same issues my parents were fighting over.
Okay.
I had to deal with.
And what's caused them to fester, in your opinion, over these years?
Honestly, it's been bad social problems, things that were programs that were built to help communities didn't actually do that. But the other thing I'd say, a lot of bad political leadership, people not sticking to programs or doing what they're doing what's best for the community as a whole.
Okay. So at this point, with this divide that you feel is happening right now, what is the solution to bring us back together? Take your time. It's a heavy question.
I don't really think there is a solution. I think over time, I think it'll take a younger generation to build more and come together, because I think a lot of our problems are created by the older people who are out of touch and are sticking with policies from the 1980s or 1950s and stuff. But to me, regardless of the problems, the biggest issues are between the rich and the poor. It's so expensive to live here in LA. Rent, I'm a school teacher and I can't even afford to pay rent. I have to work side jobs to pay rent. So I think when you have so many people struggling socially, it just exacerbates the issues that divide us. People tend to want to protect what's theirs and not socially do things that benefit people as a whole. So I don't think anything's going to change. I think I don't necessarily think it's going to be worse. I think it'll just be where it is.
Where it's at, huh?
Where everything's always just going to be just a struggle to survive.
I see. And I want to thank you. We're grateful for our school teachers, our educators. That's very important for our future generations.
Then get your legislators to pay us more. It's crazy. We educate your students, send them off into the world, but yet we're some of the least paid people.
Right. That is something else, yeah. And all what you guys do, like literally, you're right. It's not like you're, trying to sell computers. Like this is a person's child that you're pouring into on the daily to create future leaders.
I'll give an example. I'm thinking of getting out of teaching because a kid, I coached him in high school. I coached him in college, so I've seen his career. He just graduated with his undergrad. Very proud of that young man.
Awesome.
But he, right out the gate, got a job in engineering and is getting offered $87,000.
Right.
I've been teaching for 10 years. I've never made that much money, and I didn't get into teaching to make a lot of money, but to not be able to buy a house and live comfortably, it makes me feel like it's not worth it anymore. So
I see.
But as far as our country and us being divided, I think a lot of that has to do with the older generations and the way they ran our countries, and just the political divide. I don't remember it being so bipartisan when I was a kid, or polarized, should I say. And I felt like when I was maybe a teenager in the late 90s and stuff, I felt like things were starting to come together. And I just felt like this last presidency just kind of set us way backwards with everything. And it's things we didn't even argue about, we are arguing about. Things that are pointless. And I think some of these arguments are there just to divide us. Not necessarily to solve any social issue, but just to say I'm for this and I'm against this.
That's it. And I was wondering, so you teaching, this is very neat and unique that you are a teacher with our kids that you're working with. Do you see hope with them? Are they more unified, or do you see them kind of like subscribing to one message or one side or the other side, or do you see them kind of coming together, or what are you seeing with the kids that you work with?
So the only thing I noticed, kids for the most part get along with each other.
They're kids, right?
Yeah,
they're like, we're all kids, just have fun.
There isn't really a divided. The majority of our kids like teach or coach are from the inner city, so they're all either Hispanic or Latino, so there isn't much of a divide there. The only time I notice is when...
Did you mean Latino or black? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, got you. It's Hispanic or Latino.
Oh, my bad.
I got you. We're on camera. I got you.
Yeah,
That's
what I meant, black and Latino.
It's all the same. Yeah, right on.
Yeah, most of my kids, the only time I notice there is a difference is when you get kids that come from a different demographic, like a financial background.
Okay.
There may be a difference there because they just have different experiences.
Right.
Like, when I've had kids who are rich, they could afford tutors. They'll never have to do homework. They'll never have to worry about after-school jobs. And I have kids who don't come from that. It's hard for them to do homework because they got to home, take care of their kids. They got to go do a job, things like that. So there's a difference there. And there isn't really much a divide, but what I do see is that kids that grow up together and go to high school, they start dividing when they, like around college and stuff, when they start, that's when they start getting political views and stuff like that. And I'll see their Facebook posts or Instagram, or I'll talk to them when they come back to school, and you'll see that they're not as buddy-buddies as they once were. But when they're young, they all, for the most part, get along.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what we got to navigate. You see, you have this firsthand, experience and knowledge, and I tell a lot of people, I value this conversation because why not talk to a person that actually does it?
Yeah.
Versus people giving you thoughts or I feel the person's feeling is like, no, so you actually see this firsthand, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be trying to maybe, I can't say manage, but really identifying that point of what you just said from when you watch these kids grow up and then you see them get in college and then the separation happens. So I think it'll be kind of, I guess, really identifying and trying to see how that could be hopefully corrected or worked on, or I don't know, like when that's taking place in that individual.
Well, I think educating, it's tough because when you're young, it's not like a teacher's place to educate a kid politically. A lot of times parents do that, or it's more organic, kids learn. Like you can get in trouble as an educator if you get into too much political stuff.
Correct.
Unless you're teaching like a government class or something like that. I think one aspect, when you ask me about solutions and stuff like that would bring us together, I think one thing is we have to take social problems and get them away from being political arguments or political problems. You know what I mean? For example, housing and stuff, like, to me that's a social issue, but then sometimes politicians will turn that into a Democratic Republican debate and nothing ever gets solved.
Just stays where it's at.
So I think taking the politics out of social issues and maybe framing the message to the public better on certain issues and stuff like that might be better.
Right.
And that might, I don't know, if we don't have so many people struggling, I think we'd get along a lot more. With so many people struggling to survive, I think you're going to have people who want to guard what they have and don't want to share with everyone else or don't feel like they should. And it's just going to have people constantly divided. Then you throw in politics and it gets even worse.
It gets wild, right?
Yeah. I don't remember it being that way when I was a kid. I don't know if it was that way and I was a kid and I didn't notice it or whatever, but it seems like we're way more polarized than when we were. I don't recall the ridiculous things from politicians. Like the shit we hear now, I don't recall that, like the most absurd things when I was a kid from politicians. And it seems like they tried to work together, and it doesn't seem like we as people can depend on them anymore. It's like you want change in community, you really have to, I think, try and engage yourself with your local leadership, your local mayors and stuff like that, people that can actually make change in your own community. But depending on like the federal government, whoever, they just can't stop fighting to get some things solved.
Understood.
It's just going to constantly go back and forth. When one group's in power, they're going to pass their stuff that they want to do and then reverse what the other group did, and then it just keeps going back and forth, so nothing really changes. So.
I see. Well, I want to say this, Jason, we appreciate your time, and please, your local legislatures, pay our teachers, and we'll hate to lose you as an educator. I want to thank you for what you've done to change kids' lives and what you do as a teacher. And let's just hang in there during these times, man.
Yep, definitely.
For sure, man.
Make college cheaper for students as well.
All right. Any other thing?
I've had a couple kids get into Ivy League schools but couldn't go because they couldn't afford it.
Wow.
And even with scholarships and grants, it still wasn't enough. So I think that would definitely help the next generation kids, affordable college tuition and stuff like that.
Well, on that, with colleges and how there's a lot of privatization of educational institutes, so they have like, these coding boot camp
Yeah.
class. Do you feel that the traditional college structure is still obviously it's very expensive? Do you still feel that it still serves a purpose like it used to, or do you think alternative education?
It absolutely does.
Okay.
It absolutely does. The thing is, you have to seek out how it's going to help you individually.
So really know like what you're going to study, like have a plan going into college.
I think it has to not just have no one ever has a plan going into college, but I think there has to be better outreach for students maybe when they're in their junior or senior years, for them to see what they're getting their degree in, or helping students along the way, because sometimes students just go to school and say, I'm just going to get my grades and get my degree, and then afterwards they don't have any experience, they didn't do any internships. So I think there is a lot of resources that just need to be utilized better on college campuses and stuff like that.
Right. Good to know. Well, Jason, thank you so much, all right?